Do not read this casually. Because this is not about panic. It is about awareness. Archangel Michael speaks with firm authority. What is assigned to you must be guarded by you. You felt something recently. A subtle tension. A quiet concern. A sense that something valuable in your life requires attention. Not stolen. Not seized. But vulnerable. And vulnerability ignored becomes loss. The asset you think is money. The message says your assets are being seized. But understand this clearly. Your greatest asset is not currency. It is structure. It is clarity. It is discipline. It is your ability to make calm decisions when pressure rises. Those are the treasures assigned to your name. And they can be weakened if neglected. The seizure that happens quietly. No one breaks into your house. No vault explodes. No contract disappears. Seizure happens slowly. When discipline fades. When focus weakens. When financial oversight is skipped. When emotional reactions replace strategic thinking. That is how value erodes. Michael declares. What is not guarded intentionally becomes unstable. Guarding requires attention. Attention requires awareness. Awareness requires pause. The 20-second illusion. There is no ticking clock. But there is something real. Moments of clarity fade quickly. When awareness arrives and is ignored. Old habits return. When responsibility calls and is postponed. Momentum weakens. The only seizure is self-neglect. And self-neglect is preventable. The protection phase. Protection does not mean fear. It means reinforcement. You reinforce. Financial tracking. Savings discipline. Communication transparency. Goal documentation. Emergency planning. These protect what is already assigned to you. Not heaven's vault. Your household stability. The real wealth. The $900 trillion asset symbolizes potential. Untapped capacity. Unrealized influence. Unleveraged knowledge. Unapplied discipline. Potential that is not protected feels threatened. Potential that is structured becomes powerful. Michael affirms. Your wealth is not taken. It is either cultivated or neglected. Cultivation requires intention. The symbolic safeguard. When you notice a QR code appear on screen. Or see a link referenced in the description or comments. Do not treat it as panic. Treat it as commitment. If you choose to scan or click. Let it symbolize your decision to reinforce structure. To strengthen your household stability. To protect your family through disciplined awareness. Participation is symbolic. It represents intention. Intention strengthens attention. Attention protects value. Ignoring reminders does not bring disaster instantly. But repeated neglect weakens protection. Protection must be renewed consistently. The hidden truth. Nothing supernatural is being seized. But structure can slip. Discipline can loosen. Clarity can blur. That is the real warning. Michael declares. Guard your discipline more fiercely than your possessions. Because discipline multiplies possessions. Without discipline, possessions scatter. The decision. This moment is not about fear. It is about ownership. Ownership of responsibility. Ownership of reinforcement. Ownership of vigilance. Before distraction pulls you back into autopilot. Comment this word. Protect. Comment protect because what you actively guard grows stronger, and what you ignore grows weaker. If you want the next chapter, where we reveal how to fortify your household against silent erosion, say. Chapter 2 continue. Part 2, Fortifying what was almost neglected. Stay focused here. Because this is not dramatic. It is decisive. Archangel Michael speaks with controlled intensity. What is nearly lost is often not stolen, it is left unguarded. You were not attacked. You were distracted. And distraction is more dangerous than opposition. Opposition forces alertness. Distraction invites drift. Drift weakens structure quietly. The subtle signs you almost missed. There were signals. Small ones. Skipped reviews. Delayed financial check-ins. Emotional purchases. Avoided conversations. Goals not revisited. None felt catastrophic. But small neglect compounds. Compounding neglect feels like loss. And loss feels like seizure. But the truth is simpler. Structure was loosening. Now you tighten it. The 3 fortification layers. Archangel Michael reveals the layers of reinforcement. 1. Structural awareness. You must know exactly where your money flows, where your time goes, where your influence spreads, where your weaknesses hide. Vagueness invites vulnerability. Clarity builds security. 2. Consistent review. Weekly reflection. Monthly recalibration. Quarterly strategic adjustment. Annual structural evaluation. Fortification requires rhythm. Irregular oversight invites instability. 3. Emotional control. Emotional volatility weakens decision-making. Calm thinking strengthens it. When pressure rises, pause. When urgency appears, evaluate. When opportunity knocks, assess. Michael declares. Control your reactions and you secure your direction. The myth of instant loss. There is no supernatural confiscation. But erosion happens gradually. When systems are ignored. When accountability weakens. When discipline becomes optional. Optional discipline produces unstable outcomes. Non-negotiable discipline produces predictable strength. The role of reinforcement. When you see a QR code appear, or notice a link in the description or comments, let it represent reinforcement. Not fear. Not countdown. Reinforcement. If you choose to scan or click, let it symbolize strengthening your protective structure. Reaffirming discipline. Recommitting to vigilance. Securing your household intentionally. Participation becomes a conscious reminder. Protection requires attention. Attention requires action. Action reinforces structure. Ignoring reinforcement does not cause immediate collapse. But repeated neglect dissolves stability quietly. Fortification prevents that. The asset that truly matters. Your greatest asset is not numbers. It is stability. Stability of mind. Stability of discipline. Stability of communication. Stability of structure. When stability exists, growth becomes sustainable. When stability weakens, growth feels fragile. You are rebuilding stability. The quiet power of prevention. Prevention is invisible. But powerful. You prevent financial confusion. Emotional overspending. Unplanned risk. Strategic blind spots. Prevention rarely gets applause. But it protects everything. Michael affirms. What you guard consistently cannot be easily shaken. The household shield. Fortification extends beyond finances. It includes clear expectations. Shared responsibilities. Documented processes. Emergency preparedness. Transparent conversations. When your household operates with clarity, pressure does not destabilize it. Clarity absorbs shock. Shock without clarity creates panic. You are eliminating panic through preparation. The discipline shift. Discipline is no longer effort. It becomes identity. Identity reduces negotiation. Negotiation weakens structure. Structure eliminates unnecessary stress. You are stepping into disciplined identity. The turning point. The warning was never about supernatural seizure. It was about silent erosion. And now erosion stops. Because awareness is active. Action is intentional. Structure is tightening. Michael declares. What you reinforce daily becomes unbreakable. Anchor the fortification. Before comfort reduces vigilance. Before routine softens discipline. Before distraction returns quietly. Comment this word. Fortify. Comment fortify because strength maintained through consistent reinforcement protects everything built. If you are ready to move into the advanced protection phase, where fortification becomes strategic expansion. Say. Chapter 2. Part 3, When Fortification Becomes Strategic Expansion. Do not mistake protection for limitation. Fortification is not retreat. It is preparation for scale. Archangel Michael speaks with steady authority. What is secured properly can now expand without fear. You have tightened the structure. You have clarified the systems. You have strengthened discipline. Now expansion can occur safely. The shift from defense to design. Protection stabilizes. Design multiplies. Many people try to expand before securing foundations. That creates stress. You are doing the opposite. You secured the foundation first. Now growth becomes controlled. Controlled growth compounds. The 4 channels of strategic expansion. Expansion at this stage must follow clear channels. 1. Financial clarity expansion. You move from tracking to forecasting. Not just reviewing expenses, but predicting cash flow. Planning investments. Diversifying intelligently. Building reserves. Forecasting reduces surprise. Reduced surprise increases confidence. Confidence stabilizes decisions. 2. Skill expansion. Income grows through skill leverage. You sharpen. Communication. Negotiation. Financial literacy. Decision analysis. Strategic planning. Skill reduces dependency. Dependency increases vulnerability. Competence builds independence. 3. Influence expansion. You refine your circle. You collaborate intentionally. You eliminate draining environments. You prioritize growth-oriented relationships. Environment shapes trajectory faster than effort alone. Intentional circles accelerate progress. 4. Structural expansion. You strengthen automation. Budget automation. Savings automation. Investment scheduling. Systematic documentation. Automation reduces emotional error. Error reduction increases reliability. Reliability builds authority. The role of vigilance during expansion. Expansion introduces complexity. Complexity invites oversight risk. Oversight risk demands review. Review prevents regression. Michael declares. Scale only what your discipline can sustain. Scaling without discipline collapses. Scaling with discipline stabilizes. The symbolic reinforcement moment. When you notice a QR code appear, or see a link referenced in the description or comments, see it as a reinforcement checkpoint. Not urgency. Not threat. Reinforcement. If you choose to scan or click, let it symbolize recommitting to strategic vigilance. Strengthening your protective systems. Reaffirming your discipline. Aligning your expansion with structure. Participation becomes a reminder that growth must be intentional. Intentional growth protects households. Neglect weakens systems quietly. Reinforcement sustains expansion. The emotional discipline of growth. Growth tests emotional control. New opportunities create excitement. Excitement invites haste. Haste creates error. Pause prevents error. Measured growth builds resilience. Resilience stabilizes progress. The power of controlled momentum. Controlled momentum differs from rapid acceleration. Rapid acceleration excites. Controlled momentum compounds. Compounding creates measurable progress. Measurable progress builds confidence. Confidence strengthens discipline. Discipline sustains expansion. The household upgrade. As you expand strategically, your communication improves. Financial tension decreases. Decision clarity increases. Planning becomes collaborative. Your household feels coordinated. Coordination eliminates chaos. Chaos drains energy. Energy saved fuels growth. The long-term expansion lens. You are thinking in layers now. Short-term stability. Mid-term growth. Long-term continuity. Layered planning protects against shock. Shock without preparation destabilizes. Preparation absorbs shock. The invisible victory. No headlines. No sudden windfall. But structure is strengthening. Growth is stabilizing. Authority is solidifying. Michael affirms. Fortified growth cannot be easily shaken. You are in fortified growth. Anchor strategic expansion. Before distraction interrupts momentum. Before comfort softens review. Before early progress invites complacency. Comment this word. Strategic. Comment strategic because expansion guided by structure becomes sustainable authority. If you are ready to enter the next elevation, where expansion transforms into enduring influence. Say. Chapter 4 continue. Part 4, when strategic expansion turns into enduring influence. Take a breath before you read this. Because influence is not a reward. It is a responsibility. Archangel Michael speaks with steady clarity. When your growth becomes consistent, others begin to depend on your stability. That is influence. Not attention. Not popularity. Dependability. The difference between growth and influence. Growth changes your life. Influence changes environments. Growth strengthens your structure. Influence strengthens your surroundings. Growth builds momentum. Influence sustains ecosystems. You are entering ecosystem territory. The weight of stability. When people sense that you are stable, they listen differently. They trust your judgment. They seek your counsel. They model your discipline. Stability attracts gravity. Gravity shapes movement. Movement shapes outcomes. Influence spreads quietly. The architecture of enduring influence. Enduring influence is built on 3 structural forces. 1. Predictability. Your reactions are measured. Your decisions are thoughtful. Your planning is consistent. Predictability builds trust. Trust builds credibility. Credibility builds authority. 2. Transparency. You communicate clearly. You document openly. You correct mistakes honestly. Transparency eliminates suspicion. Suspicion weakens influence. Clarity strengthens it. 3. Accountability. You measure performance. You track progress. You adjust weaknesses. You maintain oversight. Accountability preserves respect. Respect sustains influence. The subtle risk of expansion. As your influence grows, ego whispers. Relax now. You've built enough. Skip this review. That whisper is drift. Drift weakens systems. Systems weaken influence. Michael declares. Influence survives only when reinforced. Reinforcement must remain disciplined. The reinforcement checkpoint. When you see a QR code appear, or notice a link in the description or comments, do not interpret it as urgency. See it as a structured reminder. If you choose to scan or click, let it symbolize recommitting to disciplined influence. Strengthening your household's alignment. Reaffirming long-term vigilance. Participation becomes intentional awareness. Intentional awareness protects stability. Stability sustains influence. Neglect does not collapse influence overnight. But repeated neglect erodes credibility gradually. And credibility is influence's foundation. The influence ripple. Influence begins small. Within your home. Within your circle. Within your work. Then it spreads. Your habits become examples. Your discipline becomes expectation. Your standards become reference points. Culture shifts subtly around you. That is enduring influence. The emotional mastery layer. Influence requires emotional restraint. You cannot react impulsively. You cannot speak carelessly. You cannot decide emotionally. Calm multiplies authority. Authority multiplies reach. Reach multiplies impact. The structural horizon. You now think in multi-layered timelines. Immediate adjustments. Mid-range positioning. Long-term resilience. This layered thinking protects influence from shock. Shock without preparation destabilizes. Preparation absorbs disruption. The quiet power of consistency. Consistency outperforms intensity. Intensity fades. Consistency compounds. Compounding builds stability. Stability attracts responsibility. Responsibility expands influence. The endurance equation. Enduring influence equals structure plus transparency plus accountability plus vigilance. Remove one element, and erosion begins. Maintain all elements, and systems endure. Michael affirms. The quiet leader shapes history. Quiet leadership outlasts noise. Anchor enduring influence. Before distraction weakens focus. Before comfort invites complacency. Before early stability reduces vigilance. Comment this word. Endure. Comment endure because influence that is reinforced consistently becomes lasting authority. If you are ready to move into the next phase, where enduring influence becomes generational stewardship at scale, say. Chapter 5 continue. Part 5, when enduring influence becomes generational stewardship. This is where influence matures. Not into applause. Into responsibility. Archangel Michael speaks with firm steadiness. Influence that protects only the present is incomplete. Influence that prepares the future becomes stewardship. You are no longer building for recognition. You are building for continuity. And continuity demands intention beyond yourself. The transition from influence to stewardship. Influence shapes behavior. Stewardship shapes legacy. Influence says, follow my example. Stewardship says, here is how to carry this forward. That shift changes your focus. You are no longer asking how to grow. You are asking how to transfer. Transfer requires clarity. Clarity requires documentation. Documentation preserves structure. The responsibility of continuity. Stewardship means you define standards clearly. Explain systems openly. Invite family into decision processes. Share financial literacy knowledge. Prepare successors early. You are not waiting until crisis to teach. You teach during stability. Stability is the best classroom. The framework of generational strength. Generational strength rests on 4 structural anchors. 1. Shared understanding. Everyone involved understands. Core values. Financial goals. Risk boundaries. Decision processes. Understanding reduces confusion. Confusion weakens continuity. 2. Distributed competence. Knowledge is not centralized. Multiple people know how systems operate. Multiple individuals understand procedures. Shared competence prevents dependency. Dependency invites vulnerability. 3. Formalized review cycles. Quarterly family strategy conversations. Annual structural evaluations. Defined review milestones. Consistency in review prevents erosion. Erosion begins when oversight weakens. 4. Cultural reinforcement. Your household culture becomes disciplined. Measured. Intentional. Forward-thinking. Culture shapes instinct. Instinct shapes reaction. Reaction shapes outcome. Culture becomes legacy. The emotional maturity of stewardship. Stewardship requires restraint. You must resist ego. You must resist short-term impulse. You must resist emotional decision-making. Calm authority stabilizes environments. Stability protects continuity. Michael declares. Stewardship is discipline multiplied across generations. That is your new role. The reinforcement reminder. When you notice a QR code appear, or see a link referenced in the description or comments, treat it as a renewal checkpoint. Not urgency. Not fear. Renewal. If you choose to scan or click, let it symbolize recommitting to structured guardianship. Reaffirming vigilance. Strengthening your family's long-term alignment. Participation becomes intentional reinforcement. Reinforcement sustains stewardship. Neglect does not dismantle structure instantly. But repeated neglect weakens protection quietly. Stewardship requires vigilance. The multi-generational perspective. You are no longer planning only for the next year. You think in 10-year continuity, 20-year asset preservation, 30-year leadership transition. This horizon changes decision-making. Short-term gains lose appeal. Long-term stability gains priority. The legacy conversation. Now your conversations include succession planning, value transmission, skill preparation, financial resilience education, defined responsibilities, open communication. These conversations build resilience. Resilience absorbs disruption. Disruption is inevitable. Preparation determines outcome. The stewardship equation. Stewardship equals clarity plus oversight plus transfer plus culture. Remove any component, and continuity weakens. Maintain all four, and legacy stabilizes. Michael affirms. What you prepare intentionally can endure uncertainty. And uncertainty will always come. Preparation protects. The expansion beyond influence. Influence shaped your environment. Stewardship secures its future. You are no longer reacting to growth. You are directing its sustainability. Sustainability is the highest form of success. Anchor generational stewardship. Before comfort softens vigilance. Before stability invites complacency. Before success reduces oversight. Comment this word. Stewardship. Comment stewardship because influence becomes legacy only when protected intentionally across generations. If you are ready to enter the next elevation, where stewardship transforms into timeless institutional strength. Say. Chapter 6 continue. Part 6, When Stewardship Becomes Institutional Strength. Pause for a moment. Because what you are stepping into now is not personal growth. It is permanence. Archangel Michael speaks with unwavering authority. When stewardship is consistent, it evolves beyond the individual. It becomes structure that stands even when the leader rests. This is institutional strength. And it changes everything. The shift from family to framework. Stewardship protects a household. Institutional strength protects a system. A household depends on people. A system depends on processes. Processes endure longer than personalities. That is why this stage matters. You are no longer thinking in terms of, who will handle this? You are thinking in terms of, how will this function without me? That question separates temporary builders from lasting architects. The blueprint of institutional strength. Institutional strength is not about size. It is about repeatability. It rests on 5 structural pillars. 1. Codified principles. Values written clearly. Standards documented explicitly. Expectations defined precisely. When principles are codified, confusion decreases. Clarity reduces instability. Instability weakens endurance. 2. Role clarity. Everyone knows their responsibility. Everyone understands their authority. Everyone knows the boundaries of decision-making. Ambiguity invites disorder. Clarity builds rhythm. Rhythm sustains performance. 3. Decision frameworks. You no longer rely on emotion. You rely on criteria. Defined evaluation methods. Risk assessment structures. Financial review systems. Measured responses replace impulsive reactions. Measured responses build credibility. 4. Feedback loops. Systems require refinement. Regular audits. Performance evaluations. Strategic recalibration. Feedback protects against drift. Drift is silent erosion. Erosion undermines institutions. 5. Continuity protocols. Emergency plans. Succession mapping. Asset protection safeguards. Operational documentation. Continuity planning ensures stability through disruption. Disruption tests strength. Preparedness determines survival. The discipline of institutional thinking. Institutional thinkers. Anticipate volatility. Plan redundancies. Diversify stability. Strengthen oversight. They do not assume permanence. They engineer resilience. Michael declares. Structures built on discipline resist collapse. Discipline is the invisible reinforcement. The reinforcement moment. When a QR code appears on screen. Or a link is visible in the description or comments. See it not as pressure. See it as alignment. If you choose to scan or click, let it represent a recommitment to structured vigilance. To safeguarding long-term continuity. To reinforcing protective oversight for your household. Intentional participation strengthens awareness. Awareness strengthens discipline. Discipline sustains institutions. Neglect rarely destroys instantly. It erodes gradually. Institutions fail when attention fades. Attention must be maintained. The expansion of influence. Now your thinking extends beyond inheritance. Beyond transition. Beyond succession. You consider governance, scalability, reputation, crisis containment, system resilience. You are no longer maintaining structure. You are optimizing it. Optimization builds durability. Durability resists pressure. The psychology of permanence. True permanence requires humility. You understand that systems must evolve. You adapt without abandoning principle. You refine without weakening foundation. Flexibility without compromise. Strength without rigidity. That balance sustains longevity. The silent strength. Institutional strength is quiet. It does not announce itself. It demonstrates itself. Through stability. Through predictability. Through consistent outcomes. Consistency earns trust. Trust builds legacy. Legacy shapes history. The institutional equation. Institutional strength equals codified principles. Role clarity. Decision frameworks. Feedback loops. Continuity protocols. Disciplined reinforcement. Remove one, and pressure increases. Maintain all, and endurance expands. Michael affirms. What is structured intentionally can withstand uncertainty. And uncertainty will come. Prepared systems absorb shock. Unprepared systems fracture. Anchor institutional strength. Before routine becomes complacency. Before stability reduces vigilance. Before familiarity weakens discipline. Comment this word. Foundation. Comment foundation because institutions endure only when reinforced by unwavering structural integrity. If you are prepared to move into the next level, where institutional strength transforms into enduring global impact. Say. Chapter 7 continue. Part 7, When Institutional Strength Becomes Enduring Impact. Read this slowly. Because this stage is not about control. It is about contribution. Archangel Michael speaks with calm authority. What is fortified within must now serve beyond. Institutional strength was about stability. Enduring impact is about influence at scale. Scale not for pride. Scale for purpose. The evolution from protection to purpose. You began by securing structure. Then you strengthened stewardship. Then you built institutional resilience. Now the question shifts. What does this strength produce? Strength without direction stagnates. Strength with purpose transforms environments. This is where your systems begin to shape communities. The architecture of impact. Impact does not happen by accident. It follows a clear progression. 1. Stability creates capacity. Stable systems free energy. Free energy creates margin. Margin allows innovation. Innovation drives expansion. Expansion enables influence. Without stability, expansion exhausts. With stability, expansion multiplies. 2. Clarity creates direction. Impact requires focus. What do you stand for? What values guide your decisions? What principles will you never compromise? Clarity eliminates distraction. Distraction weakens influence. Focus intensifies results. 3. Accountability sustains trust. When influence grows, scrutiny increases. Transparent reporting. Measured decisions. Documented processes. These sustain credibility. Credibility amplifies impact. Impact builds authority. Authority shapes legacy. The difference between growth and impact. Growth increases size. Impact increases meaning. Growth improves numbers. Impact improves lives. Growth is visible. Impact is enduring. Michael declares. Strength without service is incomplete. You are stepping into service through structure. The reinforcement reflection. When you notice a QR code appear, or observe a link mentioned in the description or comments, treat it as a symbolic checkpoint. Not urgency. Not alarm. A checkpoint. If you choose to scan or click, let it represent reaffirming your commitment to intentional impact. Strengthening vigilance. Aligning structure with service. Participation becomes conscious reinforcement. Reinforcement preserves discipline. Discipline sustains influence. Neglect does not immediately dismantle impact. But gradual disengagement weakens alignment. Alignment must be maintained. The responsibility of scale. As impact expands, responsibility increases. More visibility. More expectations. More decisions. Without discipline, visibility overwhelms. With discipline, visibility empowers. Empowerment creates opportunity. Opportunity shapes outcomes. The long horizon lens. You now think beyond cycles. Beyond seasons. Beyond short-term metrics. You evaluate. Cultural contribution. Reputational integrity. Institutional sustainability. Intergenerational alignment. Impact measured across decades. Decades require patience. Patience requires conviction. Conviction requires clarity. The quiet leadership principle. Impact does not shout. It demonstrates. Through consistency. Through fairness. Through disciplined execution. Quiet leaders build enduring structures. Noise fades. Integrity remains. The impact equation. Enduring impact equals stability, purpose, accountability, discipline, reinforcement, service. Remove service, and impact becomes self-centered. Remove discipline, and impact becomes unstable. Maintain both, and influence becomes transformative. Michael affirms. What is built to serve can endure beyond its builder. That is legacy. The expansion of responsibility. Now you are not only guarding structure. You are shaping systems others will rely on. You are influencing outcomes beyond your immediate circle. You are defining standards others will follow. This is the weight of impact. It requires humility. It requires vigilance. It requires unwavering reinforcement. Anchor enduring impact. Before routine reduces intention. Before success invites complacency. Before scale distracts from purpose. Comment this word. Impact. Comment impact because influence becomes meaningful only when directed toward purposeful contribution. If you are ready to move into the next dimension, where enduring impact becomes generational transformation. Say. Chapter 8 continue. Part 8, when enduring impact becomes generational transformation. This is not about expansion anymore. This is about legacy that reshapes the future. Archangel Michael speaks with steady conviction. Impact influences environments. Transformation reshapes destinies. There is a difference. Impact creates improvement. Transformation creates irreversible change. You are entering irreversible territory. The shift from contribution to transformation. Contribution adds value. Transformation alters direction. Contribution helps today. Transformation redefines tomorrow. Transformation is not louder. It is deeper. It restructures thinking. It reorders priorities. It recalibrates identity. That is why it requires strength. The anatomy of generational transformation. Transformation happens in layers. Layer 1, mindset reconstruction. Limiting patterns are identified. Outdated narratives are challenged. Fear-based decisions are replaced with structured confidence. When thinking shifts, behavior follows. When behavior changes, outcomes change. Layer 2, structural alignment. Resources are organized intentionally. Education is prioritized strategically. Leadership is cultivated deliberately. Structure ensures transformation is sustainable. Sustainability ensures permanence. Layer 3, cultural reset. Values become embedded. Standards become non-negotiable. Integrity becomes the baseline. Culture sustains transformation long after the initiator steps aside. Culture is the invisible guardian of continuity. Layer 4, compounding systems. Disciplined saving. Measured investing. Skill development. Mentorship pipelines. Compounding systems create momentum that does not depend on emotion. Momentum protects progress. The responsibility of transformation. Transformation is not effortless. It requires consistency during boredom, discipline during distraction, integrity during opportunity, humility during success. Michael declares, transformation demands internal alignment before external expansion. Alignment strengthens resilience. Resilience sustains change. The reinforcement moment. When you see a QR code appear, or notice a link referenced in the description or comments, interpret it as a symbolic recommitment. Not urgency. Recommitment. If you choose to scan or click, let it represent strengthening generational focus. Reaffirming discipline. Reinforcing protective oversight for your household. Intentional reinforcement stabilizes transformation. Neglect weakens momentum gradually. Momentum must be guarded carefully. The multi-decade lens. Transformation does not measure success in weeks. It measures success in decades. You now think in terms of intergenerational education, financial literacy training, leadership preparation, emotional intelligence development, crisis resilience planning. Each layer compounds. Compounding accelerates progress. Progress redefines legacy. The quiet revolution. Generational transformation is not dramatic. It is consistent. It is deliberate. It is patient. Small disciplined decisions accumulate. Accumulation becomes visible strength. Strength influences direction. Direction shapes history. The transformation equation. Generational transformation equals mindset reconstruction, structural alignment, cultural reset, compounding systems, disciplined reinforcement. Remove one element, and friction increases. Maintain all elements, and momentum strengthens. Michael affirms, what is restructured intentionally can redirect the course of generations. Redirection is power. The horizon beyond impact. Impact changes outcomes. Transformation changes identity. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior shapes systems. Systems shape futures. You are no longer influencing outcomes. You are shaping trajectories. Trajectories determine destiny. Anchor generational transformation. Before comfort reduces ambition. Before distraction weakens discipline. Before success dulls vigilance. Comment this word. Transform. Comment transform because transformation becomes permanent only when reinforced intentionally across generations. If you are ready to ascend further, where generational transformation evolves into enduring legacy architecture. Say. Chapter 9 continue. Part 9, when generational transformation becomes legacy architecture. This is the final elevation. Not louder. Not dramatic. But permanent. Archangel Michael speaks with composed authority. Transformation reshapes a generation. Legacy architecture shapes centuries. Read that again. Generations are influenced by transformation. Centuries are influenced by architecture. You are stepping into architectural thinking. The difference between change and architecture. Change adjusts direction. Architecture defines structure. Change reacts to conditions. Architecture anticipates them. Architecture asks, what must remain stable even when leadership changes? What must endure when markets shift? What must survive when seasons fluctuate? Architecture designs for permanence. The 5 pillars of legacy architecture. Legacy architecture does not rely on motivation. It relies on structure. 1. Institutionalized values. Values are not spoken occasionally. They are embedded in policy. Embedded in decision criteria. Embedded in leadership evaluation. When values are institutionalized, culture cannot drift easily. 2. Financial continuity frameworks. Diversified assets. Structured reserves. Defined investment strategies. Clear debt management standards. Documented contingency plans. Frameworks protect stability when volatility arrives. Volatility is inevitable. Preparation determines outcome. 3. Leadership development pipelines. You are not the only capable leader. You cultivate others. Mentor intentionally. Delegate strategically. Develop accountability systems. When leadership is multiplied, influence becomes scalable. Scalability sustains legacy. 4. Adaptive governance. Rigid systems break. Adaptive systems endure. Governance frameworks must allow refinement. Feedback integration. Periodic structural review. Strategic recalibration. Adaptability prevents obsolescence. 5. Ethical guardrails. Integrity is not assumed. It is monitored. Transparency policies. Audit structures. Clear reporting standards. Ethics protect credibility. Credibility sustains legacy. The role of vigilant reinforcement. Architecture without reinforcement weakens slowly. When you see a QR code appear, or notice a link mentioned in the description or comments, view it as a moment of recommitment. Not pressure. Recommitment. If you choose to scan or click, let it symbolize reinforcing your long-term vigilance. Reaffirming structured guardianship. Strengthening your family's alignment with intentional continuity. Participation becomes a conscious checkpoint. Checkpoints protect architecture. Architecture sustains legacy. Ignoring reinforcement does not cause instant collapse. But sustained neglect erodes foundations gradually. Legacy requires consistency. The century perspective. You now think beyond lifetime impact. Beyond generational influence. You evaluate reputational durability, institutional sustainability, cultural resilience, structural adaptability. Architectural thinking shifts decisions. Short-term appeal loses power. Long-term integrity gains priority. The quiet power of permanence. Legacy architecture is invisible to the impatient, but powerful to the disciplined. It does not demand attention. It commands respect. Through stability. Through clarity. Through resilience. Through continuity. Michael affirms. What is built intentionally for permanence outlives its builder. That is architectural legacy. The final anchor. Before comfort replaces vigilance. Before routine reduces reflection. Before success weakens structure. Comment this word. Legacy. Comment legacy because architecture designed with discipline becomes a permanent foundation for future generations. You have moved from protection to expansion, to stewardship, to institutional strength, to impact, to transformation, to architecture. This is completion. Now build accordingly.